Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, as well as the publisher at Autonomy Global. We are transitioning into a brand new month. It is May, and we have dedicated this month to the theme of energy ops. And we are super grateful for our month sponsor to be here today. Tedman Jess is with Suncor. He's going to tell us all about what they're doing in this space and how they're leveraging emerging technologies for energy operations. So wonderful to have you, Tedman. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So fun fact, everybody, we met in November at the Aerial Evolution Canada conference, and I saw Tedman and his colleague Genevieve DeCambra on a panel together, and I was like, wow, these folks are doing amazing things. So so great to have you here to tell the world about it now, beyond the borders of Canada. Really excited to do that. So Tedman, before we get into what Suncor is doing and what Suncor is all about, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself first?
Sure. So I've been involved sort of in aviation, really grew up in it. My dad was a helicopter pilot, and after he quit flying, was involved in aviation. So I actually grew up around helicopters and like bush planes. And so once I was done university, I completed my private pilot license and realized that maybe a life of flying wasn't for me. And I actually ended up and found my way into an aviation operations job. So I became day of ops and crew sched for a small charter airline here based in Calgary, Alberta. And in 2014, I moved over to Suncor and joined at their time their aviation operations team for their fly in, fly out program for their workers into Northern Alberta's oil sands. And as I was working that job, I got a little DJI Phantom myself and started flying just because it's a fun hobby. And really, we started to get sort of these weird, drone requests back in 2017, and not a lot of people in the company even had experience with drones. So I started helping out sort of the quality assurance and regulatory aspect of drones in Canada, starting in 2018 for Suncor. And in 2019, Canada released Section 9 of the Canadian Aviation Regulations, which finally put a regulatory framework for drone operations. And I was converted from my aviation operations job into a full-time. The portfolio slid from the side of my desk to my full-time job in 2020, and I've been looking after the Suncor drone program really full-time for over 5 years now. And well, in that time, I'm very proud to say that we've grown the program immensely. I think when we started in 2019, we had about 250 flights that year across all of Suncor. We've since grown the program. I expect to have over 5,000 flights or missions in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo in Northern Alberta, where our oil sands sites are located. And I think as of now, we're almost close to 18,000 missions completed with drones over the past 5 years.
That is amazing. I love, Tedman, how you grew up around aviation. You realize, hey, maybe being a crewed pilot or that lifestyle wasn't for you, but you were still able to follow your passion in that sector in general and stuck with aviation. How it's changed over time now to be drones. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that. So you're mentioning the oil sands and things like this. We're going to get into that. But before we do, please tell us a little bit about Suncor Energy. This is a company you transitioned to from the charter aviation world over to the energy sector. What's Suncor all about, and what about the company led you to make that jump?
Yeah, well, so Suncor began in 1967 as a pioneer in the commercial development of Canada's oil sands. We have since grown into a globally competitive integrated energy company. So end to end, we we have our mining sites, and we also have right down to our Petro-Canada gas stations. I think when what drove me to Suncor is in the Canadian aviation space. Suncor has always been a leading pioneer. We had when I joined the company, we have the fly in fly out program, and so when I joined, we were moving, I guess, by passenger volume, and still to this day by passenger volume. If you just took Suncor folks, we would be by passenger volume, we would be the fourth largest airline in Canada, but you can't buy a ticket on us, and we fly into
Oh my gosh. So basically you're
our own
flying
airport.
personnel into the work site and then flying them out of it so they can go
That is
home to
correct.
their families. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So that fly in fly out program, we've been doing that since 2008. It's something that we are very proud of because it allows people to have a work life balance. They are not necessarily in the most remote place living, and they can spend time with their families. So especially Suncor has always been sort of a pinnacle in safety, and just I guess for me in aviation, Suncor was like the job to attain, and I was super lucky to join the team in 2014.
Well, that's really unique how an energy company was like one of the largest commercial airlines basically in Canada when you signed up to join the team. I don't know that most people appreciate that or frankly appreciate what energy companies do vis-a-vis aviation. This fly-in, fly-out program is the first time I've ever heard such a thing. I know that a lot of times energy companies are using aircraft for inspection purposes because the area is so vast that needs to be covered. So tell us a little bit about other than the fly-in, fly-out program, which I think we already covered. Tell us a little bit about why Suncor has an aviation program besides that, and what kinds of missions are the aviation team is the aviation team involved in?
Absolutely. You will see some maps a little later on. Our area in northern Alberta covers over 1,800 square kilometers. We operate 6 different sites, 4 open pit mines, and 2 steam assisted drilling sites, SAGD in situ. And so we have a lot of area to cover. So we use manned aviation for surveys, aerial inspections, pipeline monitoring, a lot of helicopter work because we are so remote, a lot of environmental assessment, putting biologists out into the field. And we're seeing now a large transition into drones. We're seeing drones that are being able to replace cranes. We're seeing drones that we don't have to erect scaffolding for within the plant. We're seeing like instead of the traditional survey with your theodolite and sticks out in the field, now we're actually being able to remove crews and boots on the ground from what we consider high risk areas, and take people out of the line of fire and place them into and get them a job that is done quicker and more efficient now with drones. So
Well, and I know there's cost savings and all kinds of return on investment. We'll dive deeper into all of those things in a
absolutely,
minute,
yeah.
but I want
Yeah,
to
and
talk. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I just also wanted to say, I mean, like, 'cause our geography, and you'll see in the map, we are North American wide. In Canada, we are coast to coast. We have an offshore oil program in Newfoundland. We have marine terminals in Vancouver. We operate a refinery in Commerce City, Colorado, just outside of Denver. So, I mean, our aviation portfolio is very big. The team I'm a part of, Aviation, we look after the offshore helicopter program that takes the folks out to the rigs in Newfoundland, and sort of everything. If it flies, call us. That's sort of our tagline in Suncor Aviation. So we
Amazing. I
touch
mean, all those
everything.
different uses. If it flies, call us. That's a great tagline. So let's talk a little bit about Suncor's long-term vision. As one of Canada's leading energy providers, what is kind of the as you look and the company's evolved since the early days and kind of where it is today and where it's going. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of that?
Yeah. So, our long term vision is to be Canada's leading energy provider, respected for its people, performance, sustainability, and positive contributions to society and its stakeholders. We want to utilize technology and make informed decisions in our operational processes. And there's no other tool that can help us make those decisions in a smart, efficient, and quite fast way than capturing the data with drones right now.
All right. So we talked kind of about the geographical scope and scale and a little bit about almost like the use case in terms of what problems you're trying to solve with aviation, including drones. Can we dive deeper into that, Tedman? Because we're talking about uh, sand. What did you call them? Sand. Uh, Not sand pits. There's
So open pit, they're open pit mines, but it is what we're mining is, it's the technical term, I guess, is called bitumen. So heavy oil mixed with sand particles, or we call them oil sand. It's funny because I work for an oil company, and I am my focus is aviation, and a lot of the processes in between are magic to me. Sand goes in one end and oil comes out the other. But there's but I mean, to boil it down, but I mean, in this job, I've had to learn a lot about the processing and how we actually the whole extraction process, right from shovel right to gas pump. So in using drones, I'll just give an example for our bread and butter, and I would say that 80 to 90% of our flights are survey missions in our open pit mine. We are mapping the surface changes and the volumes of material that are moved on a daily basis. I believe I'm averaging right now 12 survey missions a day across.
Now, why are you doing that? Like, is that a regulatory requirement? Is that a safety issue? Like, what are you looking for in these inspections?
Yeah. So, well, in the survey, it really helps us map out the sort of the progression of the mine. We're not a hard rock, like it's a very loose, relatively easy material to dig. When I think of other mines in Alberta like coal, and so we also we are the owners and operators. So of the pits, but we also have contractors. So we have vendors who are paid to move material, and we are getting accurate billing basically on the calculations of how much material these guys are moving, based off of like a daily drone flight that we can then have the proof to reconcile for the invoice. And then it just for general mine planning. I think we'll talk later about our haul roads, but we're mapping all of the roads in the mine. It's just really how what is the most efficient way to move the dirt or the material in the mine to get it into the extraction process. And
Okay.
a lot of these, and because it's a dynamic, changing environment, we need to have valuable, accurate data that we can make decisions on in a timely manner. When we do a survey flight, the time we get the data back, if it's more than 2 days old, that it is now, the mine has changed so much that data is useless. We can't use it. So a lot of our survey crews were able to get the data and make actions based on that process data within 24 hours. So we're
Wow.
really able to react to changes in the mine.
So let's just kind of do the comparison then. Traditional means would be what? Would this be a helicopter, something else? And how does the drone, addition to the team, if you will, change the return on investment for something like that?
Oh, well, number one for me is safety. So in the traditional survey mission in the mine, they would have to drive their pickup truck between the largest shovel in the world and the mine face wall, and they would do basically a handheld lidar scan. They
Yep.
were putting themselves in between equipment in a very, I would say, higher risk environment, and it would take them a lot of time. The shovels and haul trucks would have to completely stop while they were, doing their survey work, and they were driving kilometers of these mine faces. Now with a drone, we can actually remove that truck, remove those people from the actual area around the shovel, and we can send the drone and perform the mission, not interrupt the actual excavation process, and we're being able to hit about 4 different sites in the same time period compared to the traditional means of really having to walk or drive those surveys.
That's amazing, and I imagine the money saved just from not having the shovel and the crew that operates it sitting there, and with on the clock, if you will, while
Absolutely.
this handheld lidar scan is occurring. I would think that alone, and then to have fourfold productivity, that's amazing. So, if you were to do like a bubble chart, Tedman, so you've got this kind of volumetric um, uh, surveys that you're doing with the drones. You talked about the long haul scans, and these are for the roads. We'll talk about those more in a minute. But what other bubbles would be on that chart in terms of energy operations that you all are doing on a daily basis, where now you have plugged drones into that process?
Yeah, well, we are doing some really interesting and exciting proof of concepts, just proving the technology out, proving the viability. And so one of the projects that we are doing this year is drones for preventative maintenance. So we will have Cortland join us and talk about what his company is doing, Osprey Integrity is doing for Suncor within our fixed plant sites. We have a company that I think is really cool. Because we operate mines, there's obviously tailings ponds that we have to let the material settle after the process. These ponds are not suitable for wildlife, and so that we have to ensure that no birds land on them. And so we're actually using drones to fly these tailings ponds to chase the birds away. So we have a radar system that can actually detect incoming birds. The wildlife team gets a warning, and they can launch their drones and go out and scare the birds away, haze them, and chase them and get them off the surface of that water.
Oh
Which
wow,
is,
that is cool.
and that's really cool because it's we can instantaneously respond to that, and not have an incident with affected wildlife. We're also starting to use so one thing about Suncor that people might not know, in the province of Alberta, we are the third largest electricity producer. In our upgrading process. We have what we call a cogen boiler, so we're making steam, and that's driving a turbine, generating electricity that we're putting out into the grid. So we have a massive infrastructure of high power transmission lines. So instead of now going and using a helicopter with a gentleman hanging out of the side of the helicopter with shooting a handheld instrument, we're now able to put 2-3 payloads on a drone and fly those high transmission lines. And we're doing it for, well, burning gas in a helicopter compared to a drone. Just the economics alone is a huge win.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had a slide up there. You've got some offshore energy things as well in your portfolio. What are you doing there? Have you leveraged drone technology in that particular aspect of your business?
Yes, so Suncor operates the Terra Nova, which is a ship off the coast of Newfoundland. That ship is tied into like White Rose and other offshore rigs. And so the Terra Nova is where the tankers will actually dock to take the oil to market. And so it's a massive ship. And so we have almost a full-time drone crew on it that is flying off the side of the ship, performing visual inspections when the weather's good, when it's not, heavy sea state and that. So it is an area that now we're able to access areas of the ship that people would either have to hop off the side in ropes or get in a little Zodiac and go along the water. Now we're not putting people in those positions. And I think that's what excites me most about this technology is that, we're enabling people to do their jobs, but not put them in the levels of exposure that would traditionally happen, and ensuring that these folks get home to their loved ones at night.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, every single possible use case that I can think of, you're hitting it. We do have a question from the audience. I want to maybe ask you here, Tedman. Are people from the truck now part of this drone survey or the survey drone crew as well?
Yes.
And I think this kind of goes back to the sand oil that we were talking about.
So what we've seen in this industry is that our vendors in specific fields, they have evolved and brought on their drones. So I don't think there is not a surveyor that we have on site that doesn't operate a drone anymore. So I guess so the people haven't changed, which is very nice, because we've had people who have been in our company for 20 years on site. That intimate knowledge that they have, really, you can't replace 20 years of being on site. So the fact that we're just able to give them a drone in their hands now to be able to go out and capture the data is huge, because we're not having to onboard new people and get people familiar. They can literally get their license, grab their drone, and go perform their work, and we're really giving people time back in their day, so that we're all very busy. So any little gain we can get is huge for our team. But yeah, so we've seen, I guess, to go back to the question, it would be the survey crews that have been on site. They are the ones that then sort of were the first adopters of drones, and were really sort of what kicked off the program internally at Suncor.
Oh, that's great. And we're going to get more into kind of what that program looks like and how it evolved. But I want to talk about the road survey that you'd mentioned. Tell me a little bit about that and why that's so important, how drones are being used for that.
You betcha. So last year we started a proof of concept for mapping the roads within the mine for these heavy haul trucks. It is very hard for me to give an accurate description of the scale of these trucks. They are able to move 400 tons of material at a time.
Yikes.
When you're in the mine and you're in a pickup truck, um, you feel like a mouse compared to an elephant. It's sort of that scale. Um, and they're heavy trucks, so and we're not on paved roads. These roads are temporary, and so these trucks really chew up the roads, and also it causes huge wear on their massive tires. So we have actually partnered with the University of Toronto's mining school, and we are surveying the haul roads and inputting that into the University of Toronto's machine learning algorithm. That algorithm will down to about a centimeter accuracy will tell us the deficiencies in the road, where then we are able to go out and repair that. So these are engineered roads, everything from the sort of the bank of the turn to how the road is crowned. Is all measured and needs to be within a specific accuracy. We're able to take a DJI M350. We have 50 kilometers of roads in only one of our mines, and we're able to get an accurate state of the conditions of those roads, and then the machine learning algorithm program is actually going to highlight areas of concern that we need to send crews out to go and repair.
Wow,
So
that
we've
is
been
so cool.
and so we've been doing that for so we're coming into so as it's May now, hopefully, knock on wood, we're done with the snow for this season, and as we're through spring breakup, we're kicking off this program again, and we have plans to expand it from the original mine site, which was the proof of concept, into the other 3 sites this year.
So leveraging AI, that's all. I mean, I'm here at Soft Week right now in Tampa, and AI, it's everywhere. And what a great way to leverage AI for safety purposes on those roads that you're talking about. By the way, Ted, another quick question. We're going to answer quickly. Chasing birds. Do you use a drone loudspeaker to project hawk or eagle calls, predator sounds, or is it air to wing fear flying type thing?
Yes, so they do have a speaker system that they will send out predator calls. The really cool uh, technology that they're using for it is they actually have a drone that looks like a peregrine falcon. It can flap its wings. I mean, from a distance, you honestly wouldn't even know it's a drone.
Is this
And
area
so,
analytics we're talking about right now?
yes,
The
it is,
Robird. Okay.
and they're
I love
robirds.
that thing. Yeah. So I'm hoping they're
Yeah.
going to come on the show later this year. We had them on, what, like 2 years ago. Jordan Sikoria, the CEO, talking about the Robird. I love that thing. So I didn't want to ask you because I wasn't sure, but like now that you've said it, like that is so cool. So from an environmental standpoint, it's a drone that looks like a falcon, and it's screeching at the other birds, so it's not like some spider looking thing in the sky scaring them away. Like I love the whole thing, and it's really interesting. So 24-hour entertainment, go back, go look through my historical files. They're all out there. Find that on Area Analytics, and learn more about the Robird. I think I wrote an article with Drone Life about that too. But I want to move on because you were talking in response to, I think, 24-hour entertainment's first question, which was, are you using the crews out there, as part of the drone crew? I think that's a great transition actually to talk a little bit about training and your program. Like, so first of all, let's kind of frame up the program. You have your internal people that are drone pilots, but you also use contractors like Cortland Pank from Osprey. We're going to get Cortland on here in a minute to talk about what he's doing with you specifically on preventive maintenance. But tell us about your internal program, what it's looking like today, And how do you train all these people?
Yeah, well, just to give you a little bit of background, when I started into this role full time, we were 100% vendor based, and I suggest anybody that is looking at bringing or starting a drone program, especially in a large organization, and we very much subscribe to the crawl, walk, run approach. Is We didn't have the experience, or even really the resources to kick off and give somebody a drone that was a Suncor employee. So we hired out, and I, we in some ways it was a newer technology, and I still think we're still trying to fight that battle and prove, actually prove that we can use this technology in a efficient and it's a cost saving manner. But what really sort of kicked off our internal pilot program was our survey crews. We have about 16 to 20 surveyors. And for a period of 3 years, they were looking at their counterparts who were vendors, who were flying drones, but as a Suncor employee, they weren't allowed to get them. So we actually, for competency training, for just job skills, we said, like, this is the perfect group to start with. So we kicked off a very small pilot program. We took folks who had relatively no aviation experience, and we take them right through ground school. So I have a 6-day course that we go to site. We go to Fort McMurray. We have 3 days in the classroom where we take them and have them prepare for the advanced pilot certificate here in Canada. We make sure that they get their radio license, their aeronautical radio license. And then we actually have a little training facility. So we actually, it's a abandoned airstrip that is in the area that's on Suncor site. And we take about 12 people out, and we spend a full 3 days hands-on controls flying. And then by the end of the 3 days, if we feel they're ready and confident enough, we give them their flight review so that they are able to get their advanced pilot license. And from that point, when that Suncor employee has their drone license, their business unit is now eligible to obtain a drone. And so I guess that's the training piece, and then the hardware piece. So in the hardware side, we've taken the approach of a lease program. So we work with various partners, and we don't actually purchase the drones outright. We lease them. A couple reasons for that. And I think the most important reason is that, the technology in drones is rapidly advancing. The technology that is being put out today will pale in comparison to what's being put out in 18 months. And so by leasing the drones, we can keep up with the technology curve. So, and really, we're trying to get the best platform and the best sensor at the most reasonable cost into the hands of our folks into the field. But I think we're operating some M300s now, and we're going to be changing those out in the next couple months and giving them new M350s. It's just a way for us to keep ahead of the cycle. And at the, we're not just, say, buying a drone off the shelf. I think for our survey crews, we have something like 16 batteries for the M350, so enough that they can operate all day. So it is quite a large expense, but we can, it becomes an operational expense, and versus a capital expense where we have to calculate the depreciation of the drones as they age. When we're done with the drone, we hand it back to the lease company, and it's just it's a lot easier for us to run that way. So
I love that. I think it's smart. You hear all about software as a service, right? Where people are just kind of, in a way, leasing software, and they're just getting the updates in real time. I mean, to physically lease the hardware, like, makes a lot of sense. And of course, you have, let's just call them adjunct drone teams like Osprey Integrity. So let's get Cortland on to talk about this preventive maintenance, because there are some operations that are so hyper specialized, and the technology itself, you wouldn't even want to lease it maybe, or train your teams on it, because there are people that this is all they do. And I think Cortland's a great example. So maybe if we can pop him in and talk about this preventive maintenance program that you've launched together, that would be amazing. So I know we're going to have to change scenes here, so we'll give it a second. There we go. There he is. All right, wonderful. Great to see you, Cortland. Also
Hey,
met
Don.
Cortland in Canada when I was out there. Like, such a great crowd. So tell us, Cortland, about this preventive maintenance that you and Tedman with Suncor are doing, and not just in Canada. If I recall correctly, you were actually in the Colorado area. We met for a coffee when you were in town. So tell everybody a little bit about this, and why it's so unique and special.
It's a loaded question. It's pretty front loaded there. A
Yep,
lot to
yep.
unpack, but the natural progression is that I think we've tried to make a name out of using unique equipment, to your point there, some specialized tools to achieve specialized results with drones. And it started there. And you know what? Sometimes we just have to look at not necessarily satisfying a regulatory requirement, but how can we start to get ahead of these things? How do we start to use tools that are around us to cost effectively have a better idea of what's going on in these facilities, right? Ted's spoken a lot about the mine so far. The facilities in their own right are huge as well, and it's difficult to have a really robust kind of surveillance of those facilities when we're limited to walking around on the ground or this prescribed catwalks and ladders. So the workflow that we've been working together on for a little while here now is starting to leverage the same technology that is used, or very similar technology that's used in the mine for the surveying side in a lot of cases, but looking at it through a different lens with respect to the facility health. So looking for things that are, early indicators, a sign or symptom, right? If we're going to stick with a bit of a health anecdote. So a sign or symptom that something could go wrong here, and get ahead of that before it becomes a big headache, which is typically the most expensive kind of headache, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
it's in that. So hopefully that sets a bit of a foundation. We can certainly drill down on some of the particulars if you like.
Well, I want to tell everybody. Actually, now that I think about it, Cortland, I met you the first time at Commercial UAV Expo last September. You spoke with on a kind of a panel, a whole series of speakers about energy operations with drones, with Valero, with Laurent Zimmerly, with the really cool Valero T drone, and you guys did kind of a little a fireside chat about the operations you're doing in non-destructive testing, or NDT. First time I ever heard of it. I learned so much. I actually wrote an article. It was on Autonomy Global when we launched. So everybody go back and check that out. And I do want to also just mention Cortland is going to be on this show for a full 45 minutes in like 2 weeks with Laurent, talking about all the things they're doing together in NDT. So I don't want to, kind of go too deeply into it to steal that thunder, Cortland. But other than just to have you maybe explain, in terms of return on investment for someone like Tedman and clients like Suncor, what are you bringing? What are drones and kind of the unique contract experience you can bring to the fight? What does that give people?
Yeah, Ted talked about the work being done with the University of Toronto and the machine learning AI side of things to essentially triage your data, right, and end up with timely insights. And realistically, it's a very same, but different kind of situation here, where we're using very similar tools, very similar process, but with a specific subject matter expertise with respect to deficiencies in a fixed plant environment that allow us to go and kind of put a pin in it at that point, and be able to send crews to look up, to dig deeper, potentially deploy one of those non-destructive testing drones that you touched on. So the drones for preventive maintenance is strictly visual and infrared, mind you, but those are happening simultaneously. And when we come away from the data review on that, we have essentially a heat map, or a treasure map, if the term heat map isn't familiar for those. We have a treasure map of spots to go and do some very targeted, very specific follow up based on now a validated reason. We're not wasting time having an operator or a contractor on site walking around and blindly looking for things. We have somewhere specific, an XYZ location, to send somebody to do that more targeted follow-up to see if this is a real valid concern, and if it is, how bad and how risky is it. A kind of natural progression from that point is that the tools that are being used, a combination of both hardware and software, are being used to kind of ingest Suncor specific documents, mainly the maintenance prioritization side. So when something is identified, it's being basically assigned a consequence and likelihood of failure metric based on Suncor's existing document that's existed for quite some time, which pumps out a prioritization for repair. Do we have to handle this now, or is this a turnaround group problem? Can this wait for 10 years? Do we have to worry about it? Never, right? We go through that process. And it helps the maintenance and operations teams prioritize those workflows. And ideally, because it is spatial, we can start to deploy one crew or one resource to hit a cluster. We can start to identify, some efficiencies that come from one crew going this way and hitting, 4 birds, so to speak, right? So go back to the tailings pond.
No pun intended, because we were just talking
Yeah, I know.
about
Jordan's not here to defend himself. I know.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. All of these use cases and this hybrid approach that Suncor has taken in terms of these operations, employing people like you, Cortland, and your team at Osprey for the preventive maintenance program. That's amazing. Our time was going to fly, and I knew it would. No pun intended there either. We're at 3 minutes out, and I do have to stop at the dot. So I'm going to hand it back to Tedman, Cortland, but it was so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in 2 weeks, and everybody can pick your brain a little bit more as we get much, much deeper into these kind of operations that you're talking about here. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Talk to you later.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See you soon, buddy. All right. So Tedman, back to you again. We've got just a couple minutes left. You have a strategy. I want to throw up this slide. We're not going to have time to go through your entire strategy right now in the 2 minutes left. What I want to do is, kind of to end the show, hand it back over to you, Tedman, and just talk about people about, where you see your drone program going in the future, what we can, expect to learn about Suncor's drone program going forward.
Yes, well, we're really excited to the new revision of the CARS, or the Canadian Aviation Air Regulations, Section 9, which looks after drones, and the simplified low-risk BVLOS flights that are going to be into the sort of the regulatory framework coming in November. So we are actually going to be conducting our first BVLOS trial this summer. It is an approach that we haven't gotten into the BVLOS space just yet, but I'm very excited that we're going to be performing a few flights here in July, and as well as the deployment of autonomous docks. To me, I think, and where I see sort of our program going in the next 5 years, is that we'll actually phase out pilots in the field, and we'll start to deploy them from fixed spots around our sites and capture the data with a docked solution. So I'm very excited for the prospects and trajectory of our program.
Well, that is awesome. And everybody out there, you can meet Tedman at Law Tech Connect in person live. He will be on our big energy panel. And he's going to be talking about these upcoming regulations in Canada and also what they're doing, in terms of more about these drone operations for energy. So please join us there. Registration is still open. Tedman, we are at time. I want to ask you to please tell everybody how they can learn more about Suncor as a drone program and how they can reach you.
You betcha. You can find me on LinkedIn, so Tedman Jess, and our website is suncor.com.
All right, Tedman, thank you so much. This was kind of a fire hose, but I hope everybody that watched walks away with a greater appreciation for all the different applications that can be utilized in the energy sector and how you are leveraging emerging technologies to make your operations more safe and more efficient and cost effective. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your sponsorship this month. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Houston, my friend.
I'm excited for later this month as well. So looking really forward to it. So
all right, thank you, everybody. Thanks everybody out there. We are out here.